Shalom, Officer Kim UL here for Lionz Den radio show here in Orlando, Florida. We are here at United Foundation of Central Florida, and we've been invited by Ms. Sandra Fatmi Hall, founder and executive director. She's got a group of youth, high school students, and for Black History Month, we're going to do a presentation on the hidden history. We're going to show the youth that we are greater than what we've been taught and what our true nationality is according to the Bible. Stand by. Shalom.
What we're doing today is a hidden history. You're going to learn, you ever heard of the Stop Woke Act?
No.
You're going to learn of it. Governor DeSantis has it in the schools called the Stop Woke Act. And you can, just by me saying that, what do you think that means? Brother right there.
It means that some of the African American history will be in the textbooks.
You're on it. You're on it.
Okay, do you know what grade he's in?
I'm going to guess 9th grade.
Oh yeah, because I asked, I know.
That was a good guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's so just by me saying that, you can understand what you're going to learn today, you're not going to learn it in the schools. What you're going to learn today is not what maybe me and this brother here and Miss Sandra had learned when we were growing up, certain things that they taught, not teaching no more. Why? Because they're trying to stop you from understanding who you really are and what you don't, your history don't start as slavery and end with Martin Luther King. Even though Martin Luther King was a great man, but we didn't start as slaves. So we're going to touch on some history books, a little bit of the Bible. Our presenter is going to be Brother Kim UL. And if we have time, we're going to try to go, we have Brother Dennis Williams, he deals with real estate. And he's going to tie in how what you learn today can be brought up from back then up till today in land ownership, home ownership. So we don't come from renting. When you learn our history, he's going to let you know we don't come from renting. He's going to give you some options and things of that nature. So let me not talk too long so the brothers can get in the presentation. So Brother Kim UL can start.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
All right. So yeah, this is what month is this?
Black History Month.
Okay. So we're gonna just go through a few slides. It's gonna be very brief because I do want to leave time for Brother Dennis, and I want you to ask questions. It's very important that you ask questions. I have a question for you. There's a saying, a wise saying. If you want to hide something from black people, where do you put it?
In the book.
In where?
In the book.
In the book. So what does that say about us? We don't what?
We don't read.
We don't read. But like Michael said, in our history, we taught other nations of people. Okay, so how are you going to teach people if you can't establish a system where you read and write? Our history is recorded, but a lot of us don't know where our history is recorded. All right, it's all around us, but there's main places. So as we go through these slides, if you have questions, just raise your hands because I want you to ask it while it's fresh in your minds. All right. So our hidden history, all right, is presented by Lionz Den radio show. Go ahead. I want to let's go this one. Okay. So what is your nationality? All right, so some of you may recognize as being what? African American, Haitian, Jamaican, Dominican. These are all different nationalities, but yet all come from one father. So how are you different nationalities? It's like having a house with a bunch of siblings with the same mother and father, but they identify differently. Does that make sense? It does? Okay, so let's take this table. Let's say you all had the same father and mother, right? But you called yourself an African American, and you called yourself a Dominican, and you called yourself a Cuban, and you called yourself a Haitian, but you got the same mother and father. Or at least the same father, because we are what our fathers are. Would that make sense? It doesn't make sense, does it? No. So how do we get to that point? If we all have the same father, we can all trace our lineage back to one man. Doesn't make sense, does it? No. But that's what we've been trained to believe, all right? So what is your nationality? And where can your history be found? Go to the next slide. It's at your fingertips, yet you know it not. We will examine the history of the so-called black man and woman, and if possible, somebody need to take notes or record it, all right? So, from Adam. Who knows about Adam? How was Adam created? Out of what? From the earth. From the earth. Yeah, Adam was created from the earth, right? What color is the earth? Brown. Okay? So Adam, being the first man, was what? Brown. Or we consider today what? We're black. Because brown people, none of us are actually black, but we're considered black, right? We're called black. All right. So now, up until we're going to go up to the Dark Ages. Anybody ever heard that? Dark Ages? They should be teaching that in history, junior high, high school. I think that's when we started learning that. So you should be going through this type of history. But again, as Brother Michael said, what we're going to show you, they ain't going to show you. All right, I'm talking about your school system. All right? So now there's a book called Nature Knows No Color Lines. Here's the interesting thing. A lot of the books we're going to show you are less than like $15. All right? That's not, you know, y'all spend that going to McDonald's twice in a week. Right? Once maybe. Okay, I ain't been to McDonald's in years, so I don't know. But a lot of these books are $15, $20. All right? Now, I want to show you something. I want you to look in the far corner. All right? That is us in nobility. Okay, everybody knows of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, right? Yes. And you'll see how they have patches, right, and designations. Oh, yeah. Okay, so these are ours. These are ours. From the Dark Ages. Okay? Why do you think it was called the Dark Ages? Anybody?
Maybe that's when dark-skinned people ruled?
Dark-skinned people ruled. Very good. You were right on. You were spot on. Next slide. Okay. This you can look up, for the sake of time, you can go to Wikipedia, you can look up coat of arms and get the understanding. This is some more of the coat of arms when we ruled. Go to the next slide. Now, it says German families note the Negroes upper left. So when you see this one, you have a crown, and I know it's kind of a little hard for you to see, a crown and a mitre. Anybody know what a mitre is? Anybody ever heard of that term? Okay, so in the Bible, you have people known as the tribe of Levi. Today, they would be known as Haitians. Okay, they were the priests. They had the men, the priests, they wore a mitre. All right, so this is showing you that these are royalty. This is royalty. This is your history. This is royalty. All right, let's go to the next slide. This one is when we ruled in France. So the French, the Dutch, and the Belgians with names of Negroes. So all of these are different coats of arms. We ruled that whole area. All of Europe we ruled. Okay? All right, next slide. All right, so now we have more pictures. This is a book. We didn't bring this book because it's quite expensive. It's called The Treasures of the Tsars, or Russian Icons. Some of these, it's written in, well, this one is in English. We have another one called Russian Icons that is written in Russian. But I want you to look at the pictures, right? This is actually gold, but if you see these faces and hands, that shows you these are what? Black people, right? Next slide. Okay. Anybody recognize that picture right there? Anybody know what that is? Huh? Jesus and who? And Mary. It's called the Black Madonna. All right? So, in Europe, they know this to be history. Where has it been hidden from? Us here in the Americas. Us here in the Americas. I'm going to read this. It says, parents use the image to bless their children on their marriage, in people's homes. Lamps stood in front of the icon, and children from their earliest years knew and loved the image of the Mother of God. So wait a minute. The Mother of God is black here. Did y'all know the Mother of God was black? Some say yes, some say no. All right, so then that means it's not common knowledge. All right, next slide. All right, this is actually a door, and it's got more black icons. Okay, go ahead, next one. All right, another one of the mother of God and Jesus. It says this is from Russia in the 19th century. So that's the 1800s. All right, the 1800s. That's not that long ago. If y'all think about it, that's not that long ago. And yet they knew what? That Christ is black and his mother is black. You can read that in the Bible. Go ahead.
I want to read that real quick.
You want to read that? Go ahead.
I want to pull something up for you. I can't, it's on my phone, but I want to pull it up. It was you can't see it here, but y'all probably seen it though. Miss Sandra had a holiday thing. Did y'all see that? So y'all know what it is, right? So you see on there, you see the Christmas, you see Happy Hanukkah on there, right? Now pay attention to what he just read. I'm going to read in the Bible. So you see you got her there, and you see the candlesticks, right? So I'm going to read something in the Bible. I'm going to read it quick for you. Revelation 1 verse 1. It says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants. Right? So the context is Christ, right? So I'm going to go to verse 11, and there's the words in the rest. This is Christ talking. Saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, right? So this is Christ talking, right? When you go to verse 12, and he turned to see, this is John having the vision of Christ. And I turned to see the voice that spake unto me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. So just like with Miss Sandra here, here's the candlesticks. Reading the Bible, John turned to see 7 golden candlesticks, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. Now he's going to get a description of Christ. Now you're going to see where they're getting this from. His head and his hairs were white like wool. So the texture of Christ here was what?
Wool.
Wait.
The same texture as everybody else in here.
Yeah.
Oh,
The texture, not the color. His head and his hairs were white like wool. So he's describing the texture of it and the color of it. So it's like, you see her back there? That would be a good description of what?
wool.
That woolly. Just like you all. I can't point at her, I can point at everybody.
Yeah. Oh, everybody.
So he's got a woolly texture here, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass. So brass is what color? Brown. And they get more descriptive. As if they burned in a furnace. And his voice was like as the sound of many waters. So his feet was brass color, burned in a furnace. What color is that? Very dark. Very dark. We're reading this from the Bible is a history book as well. That's where they got that depiction from, the true depiction, right here. Good question.
What version are you reading?
King James Version. Yeah, King James Version. You leave, it's a different topic. You read other versions, it's going to be something, it may say something different in there. So I just want to touch on that. So you got Miss Sandra in the midst of the candlesticks, just like the Christ, that the Bible describes it. So the color of the Christ was the same color as her, you. And they don't just stop with African American or Jamaican or Haitian. You got Cubans that dark color. You got Puerto Ricans that dark color. And that's some of the things that he's going over. I wanted to just touch that real quick when it came to...
Yeah. They'll call them Afro-Cubans or Afro-Puerto Ricans, right? The same people. I want you to remember that question. We're going to revisit that question. That was a good question. All right, next slide. Okay, so anybody ever heard of the Kremlin? Anybody ever heard that term?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. In Moscow, right? So you have these pictures in the Kremlin. Let's read what it is. The subject of the icon is Christ's defeat of the powers of darkness during the 3 days between the crucifixion and resurrection. The symbol of the victory of life over death. Beneath his feet lie the broken gates of hell. So it says, beneath his feet lie the broken gates of hell. There's a scripture about the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Anybody ever read that? You familiar? Anybody familiar with that? Okay. So This is what our forefathers were drawing. This is the artwork that they were creating, right? It says, with its shattered locks and keys and chains, below shrouded figures rise from their tombs. To either side of Christ stand Adam and Eve, whom he holds by the hands. And you got the biblical kings, Solomon and David, and the Old Testament prophets. So these are all black people. Solomon, in the Song of Solomon, writes that he is black. Okay, this is in the Bible. Go ahead. Let's see what else is written. Now, this is in, I believe it's in Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. It says, it is written in the book of Daniel. All right, so now this is a history book quoting the Bible. It's written in the book of Daniel, 7 verse 9. I beheld till the thrones are cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Does anybody know who the Ancient of Days is? No? Any guess? Ancient of Days, meaning he has no beginning nor end of days. God. God. Now look what it says. Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like what? Pure wool. Wait a minute. Who got pure woolly hair? Huh? We do. Even your historians know this history. But who is it hidden to? Remember what I asked you. If you were to hide something from Negroes, where do you put it? In books. So that means that we must do what?
Read.
Read. Very good. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. So that's talking about his throne. But it says he had hair like pure wool. Now, Brother Michael read the description of Christ, who had hair like what? So then what do you think God's people look like? Very good. Go ahead. Next. Now, anybody ever heard of the term Renaissance?
Yes.
Now, I know you've all heard of that term. They teach that, right? I want you to connect the dots here. Okay, let's see what Renaissance is. The activity, spirit, or time of the great revival of art, literature, and learning in Europe beginning in the 14th century. Now, we were showing you pictures of us ruling prior to the 14th century. So I'm going to read that again. I want y'all to connect the dots here. The activity, spirit, or time of the great revival of art. Well, we just showed you art. It says literature and learning. What's literature? Writings, right? And learning in Europe beginning in the 14th century and extending to the 17th century. Now, let's jump down to 5. It says, of pertaining to or suggestive of the European Renaissance of the 14th through 17th centuries. Now, we just showed prior to that, who was ruling Europe? Black people. So what do you think the revival of that means? What's going to happen to the black people? Huh? The black people had to go somewhere, didn't they? In order for the Renaissance to take place. Who's following? Who's lost? If you lost, I want to help you out. Who's lost? You lost? Okay, where you lost?
You said about okay, so black people had to move somewhere?
I'm saying something happened. I didn't say what yet.
Oh.
Something happened to the black people, because if we showed us in Russia, in Europe, in Germany, in France as rulers, and yet the Renaissance means a revival after the 14th century, that means somebody else is coming back into power. Where did the black people go? Where did the black people go? This is what you won't be taught in school. Next slide. Now, black. That's us, right?
Yeah.
Black, okay. Black, pertaining or belonging to any various populations characterized by dark skin pigmentation. I'm going to tell you why that's a lie. Anybody ever seen a dark skinned Arab?
Yeah.
A dark skinned Arab.
Yeah.
Do they suffer the same things you suffer?
No.
How about the East Indian man that owns 7-Eleven? You ever see any dark-skinned East Indians?
Yes. Yeah.
Do they suffer what you suffer?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's read it again. Pertaining or belonging to any various populations characterized by dark skin, pigmentation, specifically dark-skinned peoples of Africa, Oceania, and Australia. B, what does that say? African American. You see how now that term is shifted to African American, right? Or black. Now, let's read number 9. Can you read that? Want y'all read that? Because I'm going to make sure y'all know I'm not making this up. You going to read it? Read it out loud so everybody can hear it.
Without any moral quality or goodness, evil, wicked, his black heart has concocted yet another black deed.
Okay, so without any moral quality or goodness, evil, wicked. These are the connotations for black. There was a woman that was running for president that said that black men are what? Super predators. Super predators. That was Hillary Clinton that made that. Yeah. Yes. Hillary Clinton.
You can look that up.
She said black men are super predators. So that goes unto that without any moral quality, goodness, evil, wicked. So when they see black people, why do you think we got George Floyd and Sandra Bland and the list goes on. This is too many to name. Why so many of our people suffer these things? Because the people of the Renaissance, when they look at us, this is what they see. Now let's go back to Renaissance one more time.
And you gotta listen to the words, why they quote bad with black and call us black. When he just went over what Adam made from dust to the ground, nobody in here I'm looking at is black. The jacket is black, nobody in here, in this room right now, is the skin color of the jacket you guys on. But you will be categorized as a black person. To associate you with what? Bad things, evil, not good, not done away with.
I see.
I want to tell y'all too, y'all shocked, because we did this a couple days ago in Orange County government with adults. And they wasn't picking up the things that y'all picked up just like that. Nobody knew, as adults never heard of Kremlin. And that's way before your time. And they didn't know about it. So I'm gonna give y'all kudos. Y'all some sharp kids.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm gonna read this again.
Here we go.
Renaissance, the activity, spirit, or time of the great revival of art, literature, and learning beginning in the 14th century. All right? In Europe, beginning in the 14th century, extending to the 17th century. All right? It's still going. That's what they say. It's still going. Okay? All right. Persecution of the saints. I need to explain to y'all so that y'all could see how we became African Americans. Because remember I said, something happened to the people. They had to go somewhere, right? All right. In 1492, Grenada, the redoubt of the Moorish kingdom. Anybody ever heard of Moors? That term, Moors, just means black. Okay, that was us. Moorish kingdom fell to the Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella. Anybody ever heard of them? Yes. Okay, y'all are very smart. Okay, all praise. Their children at their side rode and took the great palace of Alhambra and took possession of it. The Catholic Thanksgiving, which followed, where once the ceremonies of Islam had held sway, presaged the most triumphant years of the Spanish monarchy. Now I want y'all to write that word down or type it in your phones to go up and look later. Reconquista. 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 All right, I want y'all to look that up later. We will go into it, but we short on time. All right. Go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. Now, this is what I wanted. Okay, here we go. Now it says some of these Jews. Now let me start up here. It is estimated that over 100,000 Jews departed from Spain and Portugal during the persecutions and the expulsion. Some of these Jews went to Northern Europe, Italy, and Turkey, but most of them went to Muslim countries of Northern and Western what? Africa. these black Jews would naturally go to African countries, most of all because of less persecution, and they could disguise themselves easily among blacks. Why could they disguise themselves easily among blacks? Because they were black. Black people can hide amongst black people, right? Be kind of hard for somebody that's not black to hide amongst black people, right? Okay, next slide. Now, why we were there in Africa. This is important for y'all because y'all students, y'all our future. It said the black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them. You know what that means? This is what they carry with them. That's why I said this is our history. We've been taught it's a religious book. This is actually a history book. And all the prominent people, including Christ, are black.
Can you read that part again? Read that part again. Read that part again. Let's see if they catch something.
All right. The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them.
I want to get her question real quick.
Oh, when they say Jews, you're talking about like the bloodline and not the nationality?
Very good
That's a good question. That was just.
You
You
want to
just get into that.
Yeah, very
Let's
good
talk about the
question.
bloodline and nationality. Y'all remember the story of Christ? When he was born, they were going to kill him, right? Yeah. He fled to where? Not the mountains, but that's to get us close. He fled. Remember the angel said, "Go flee to Egypt." He fled to Egypt. Why? What was in Egypt? Black people, right? I'm going to read something for you. Now, when Christ is a Jew, right? Now, Christ, Judas means short for Judah. That's just one tribe of all his tribes. His nation would be Israel. His tribe would be Judah, right? One of the 12 tribes. I'm going to read something for you. I'm going to read Exodus 11, verse 7. Now, you know about Moses, children of Israel going to slavery, right? The Egyptians had them captive, right? So what color were the Egyptians? Black. We know they're black, right? Look what the history book, the Bible says about this. Exodus 11, verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against any man or beast, that ye may know that the Lord doeth put a difference, you hear that? A difference between the Egyptians, which are black people, and Israel. Letting you know what? Those Israel people, Christ, Moses, Christ coming from Judah, Moses coming from Levi, the so-called Haitian today. Although the skin color is the same, they're not the same people. God let you know I put a difference between them. Those dark-skinned people that put the Israelites into captivity, other dark-skinned people, you're not the same nation. Y'all not the same race. Where it goes to, y'all heard of who's the apartheid guy? What's his name? Mandela. Yeah. You know about Mandela, right? How come you never see Mandela saying, my people from America, from Haiti, from Jamaica, bring them back to Africa? When he was fighting for apartheid, it was for what? Africans, right? Mandela knew they want the same people as them. You know who knew that? Marcus Garvey knew that. Marcus Garvey was a so-called Jamaican. He knew. He was saying, let's go back to Africa because we do descend from that region. But we're not the same people as a natural blood-born bloodline. Let's go to her question, African. It's a different bloodline. It's a different race. And the Bible lets you know that the Haitians, the Jamaicans, the African Americans, the Cubans, when you get into the true history, you'll see that, okay, they're one race. But the Africans, when you get to the story of Noah, Noah had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. You understand that, right? These kids are sharp. These kids are real sharp. Yeah. Now, out of all those kids, and we got books to support it, we can't get into it now, there's a bloodline that comes from Ham, there's a bloodline that comes from Shem, there's a bloodline that comes from Japheth. All dark-skinned people. When you follow the bloodline of Shem, it's going to go down to Abraham, it's going to go down to Isaac, to Jacob, it goes down to King David, it goes to Solomon, get all the way down to Christ. When you get into Ham, you got to go down to the Pharaohs, the Egyptian, you got to go down to Shaka Zulu. Two different people. There's an old slave sign. If we had it in there, could pull it up. It says, and this is a popular one, it says, Negroes for sale from Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is where? Africa, right? So why wouldn't that sign say, Africans for sale from Sierra Leone? The term Negro was a different name change from the true people who that was. Africans weren't for sale. It was Negroes, which would lead back to, it's going to lead back to this. But I'm gonna let him, I just wanted to touch it. That's a very good question.
Okay, very good. I'm passing around a book that we got this from. It's called From Babylon to Timbuktu, all right? So that you can see that and show that what we getting these from are history books, all right? We actually met the guy that wrote that book. So now, with what Brother Michael just explained, the black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. So that's showing you the difference between the people, okay? And it says they carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them. This assured them a constant precedence for development of a higher social organization. Because of the stability of the black Jewish culture, the Jews were not absorbed into the, who could pronounce that word?
Wait, what's the word?
That's a word right there.
Yeah. Autochthonous? All right, we're going to go with that. Population. In fact, the Jews absorbed some of the native tribes. The Jews made use of every opportunity. They were an industrious and skillful people. And I want to pause there for a second. This is Black History Month. This is when we're reminded of a lot of the inventors during the times that we were enslaved, right? What are some of the inventions that our people did throughout slavery? Cotton gin.
Stove.
You said stove?
Oh, that's not doing something. My bad. That's not doing
What was the thing? What's the question?
Okay,
It's not doing food.
okay, some of the inventions that our people have done here in America since we've been brought over here.
Light bulb?
Okay, filament for the light bulb, stoplight. How about surgery? Anybody know about that?
Ben Carson.
Dr. Daniel Hale, I think he first open heart surgery, I believe. So we've done a lot, even as oppressed people. I think was it the computer or which one? There was a chip, or was it for the cell phone? Somebody had bought it out recently. The cell phone, right? Anybody saw that movie? What was the movie about the black mathematicians, the sisters? Hidden Figures. Right. And it shows how we don't get credit for a lot of the things that we do. Just think about what this country would be. This country would be a third world country if it wasn't for us. Okay? And we're showing you that's not the first time. All right? It says, in the Jewish Ghanaian states were found kings, and this is you. Kings, princes, governors, generals, secretaries, treasurers, revenue agents, judges, architects, engineers, doctors. I want to stop for a second. Because I have a daughter, she's a doctor. A lot of black kids struggle with math. You're either good at math or you're terrible at math. And a lot of black kids don't like to go into math, but yet it says, well, if you're a treasurer, you got to be good at what? Math, right? If you're an architect, math. If you're an engineer, math. Even if you're a doctor, math, right? It says historians, language interpreters, mathematicians, jewelers, sculptors, masons, carpenters, painters of art, goldsmiths, leatherworkers, potters, armorers, saddlers, blacksmiths, agriculturalists, etc. You know what that says? Not just that. We're a nation. When you have all these people, you can be an independent what? Nation. That's us. All that talent is in this room.
Oh, yeah.
Believe it or not. All of the same talent we're reading about is in this room. Next slide. Okay, lost heritage. Now, this is out of the book that we have called Within the Plantation Household. Because remember I said those black people had to go somewhere from the Renaissance, right? So they went into Africa as black Jews, and they came over on slave ships and became what? African Americans.
Wow.
So prior to the Renaissance, we were Israelites. We came over on this side of the earth and became African Americans. I need you to read that up, Jeremiah 17.
Hey, that goes to the point. He said what they flee to. Flee to the mountains. They fled to the mountains from Jerusalem. You read this in the Bible. If you were surrounded by Orlando, it said armies are encamped. Flee to the mountains. If Orlando was surrounded, would you flee to the mountains in Orlando? You would flee out of Orlando. So they fled to the west coast of Africa from Jerusalem.
I'm going to read this. This is Jeremiah, this is in the Bible, 17:4. It said, you got it? All right, go ahead.
And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever.
So, who knows what a heritage is? Who can answer that?
Heritage is passed down from your parents or from your ancestors.
Okay, it's passed down. What is it? Your what? Culture. Okay. What else? What goes into your culture?
Things that you use.
Okay.
Traditions.
Traditions. Okay, so I'm gonna help you out. One of the things in your heritage is your land, the land that you come from. It's part of your heritage. You're connected to a land. Are we in the land that we originated from? No. So this is true. We've lost that heritage. Another is a language that you speak. Do we speak the original language of our forefathers? No. We've lost that heritage. Another one is the laws, or like you said, your culture, those things which govern you. Remember, go back to the last slide. Remember what it says, that when we fled into Africa, we had an advantage because they carried their culture, history, and laws and written records with them. Go forward, go back. But now, when we get on this side of the earth, guess what we don't have? We don't have none of that no more. That's why what we're bringing out is hidden history. It is hidden only to us. The rest of the world knows this history. The rest of the world knows this history. So now I want to deal with that question you asked, which version of the Bible? That goes into this. Because when you start reading NIV and New King James and some of those, certain scriptures are no longer present. And certain terms have been changed. Okay? I'm going to leave it there because it gets way deeper. We're going to keep this basic, all right? All right. It says, the slaves' gender conventions resulted from a combination of West African traditions, white influences, and their own experience within the what? Afro-American slave community. But we didn't go into Africa as Afro-Americans. When we fled Spain from persecution, we didn't go in there as Afro-Americans or African-Americans. But somehow we came out as African-Americans. It says transplantation to the New World, however violent and disorienting, never eradicated African conventions, but did divorce them from the material and institutional conditions in which they had flourished. What does it mean to flourish? All right, you doing well, right? That's what we read in the last book, that last slide. And it exposed the slaves to the power of masters with the views and attitudes different from their own. So now we've taken on whose ways and whose society? Who? White people, okay, those that oppress us. Okay? Those that oppress us. Next slide. Anybody ever seen pictures like this?
Yes.
Yeah. That could be any one of our grandmothers out there. I want y'all to meditate on that. We went from royalty to this. And like Brother Michael said from the beginning, our history didn't begin here and it doesn't end with Martin Luther King. That's why we want to show you that our history is great. It's too much to be explained in this hour or in a month or even in a year. Okay, our history is expansive. And everybody on the planet Earth knows how great we are, except who?
Us.
Except us. That's why you are the foundation. Your generation is going to be the foundation because they're starting to remove this out of the schools. Yes, there are laws being passed right now as we speak to remove this history out of the schools so that when you all start having children and your children at your age, they won't have no idea about none of this unless you teach them.
You can Google the Stop Woke Act. And it'll come out what the Stop Woke Act is.
Last slide. Let's read it. Read it.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 20.
This is the conclusion. Go ahead.
And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore. But thine eyes shall see thy teachers, and thine ears shall hear word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand, and when ye turn to the left.
Okay, so that's why we're here. Thanks for your participation, and we pray y'all got something out of this, all right?
We're gonna have about 20 more minutes. As he was explaining, we had the mathematicians, the treasurers. When you think about at that time, you think our people was renting property from people, or were we owning the property? Owning. So that's going to be the bridge for Mr. Williams is going to come in and show you the greatness that we still have and how we should be aspiring to live as royalty people. One of the things I want you to think about is one of the things that we didn't carry our laws. The laws is how we live by, how we govern ourselves, our quality of life. The laws that we're following is right in here. When we stop following that, that's when the things shifted and went downhill for us. So Mr. Williams is going to talk to you about home ownership, real estate, owning things, and how possible it is for you at a young age to be homeowners.
The scriptures say, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV.
Do you know history?
I'm going to show you and prove to you that the Israelites are black, were always black.
Dance for time, just move up your body. Don't get loose and groove on the body. Bruise, whine.
Put on the armor, the procedure complete. Me nah go back, nah retreat. All traitors, every Jezebel must get delete. Me no sleep on a demon, me keep a full clip. Conspire me downfall, cause them want see me slip. Stay close to the real ones, we seal off and legit. Cause I gotta use them to keep your soul from the pit. This a war life, I swear the damn thing.
On there. Like anything, like you have to move like every year, or okay. So one said you have to move every year. What else?
You pay more for like less.
Pay more for less. Okay. Anything else? No. And how about people that own a home? You know that the mortgage doesn't change, right? You know that the payment stays the exact same for 30 years, right? So in this slide here, it's saying, is renting good? I want you to understand that rent is 100% interest. You get absolutely nothing back, right? You're actually forced to pay the increase every year. Anybody familiar with what's going on in the market right now? Especially in Florida? You say inflation, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually a migration because of COVID. You know how they were saying that COVID does better in cold places? Well, sorry, that's not. Hold on. Well, up north, since it's colder there, most people are moving down here so that they don't get the virus as quickly. So with that happening, who knows about real estate up in like New York? Is it expensive or is it cheap? It's expensive, right? It's more expensive than here, right? But we still feel like it's expensive because we live here, right? So up in New York, what they're doing is selling their houses there and paying for cash, everything down here. So it's not so much that it's inflation, it's a high demand for houses in this area. Anybody familiar with supply and demand and how it works? Who knows? Who can explain? No? You can explain? It's okay. We all the brothers and sisters here. You can explain it?
People want more of something?
Right. When there's less supply and it's high demand, what happens to price? It goes up. It goes up. Right? Same with rents. Rents actually increased from last year to this year about 50%. So if you were paying $900 a month, this year you're paying like $1,300. You follow? But did anybody get a raise that much in their check? Absolutely not. But if you own the house, what happened to your mortgage?
It stays the same.
It stayed the same. And everybody else had to fend for themselves, right? So, yeah, that's the second one going into the mortgages. Typically, your interest rate is usually been 3 to 5%, and it goes for 30 years, but your payment stays flat. Now, who's familiar with rent and mortgage, or other people paying your mortgage while you gain cash flow? That's the investment side, right? Do your parents ever talk to you about investing in real estate?
No.
You got one that said yes? What they tell you?
My grandma, she's a real estate owner. She used to stay right there on Blaze Art. And she moved to Ocoee, but she rents out the place that she stays in.
Okay.
And my mom, she also owns a house, and like I think she's going to be done paying the mortgage in a couple of years, and she plans on doing the same.
Okay. All right. So that's 1 out of kind of like 22 people. So you see how we're kind of falling behind because we don't understand these things? Because once you own a home, what do the parents usually say? They want to leave it for the kids, right? But do we really want our parents' house?
No.
Right, because that's the mentality that they were taught, is this is how you build an inheritance. Proverbs 13 to 22, real quick, somebody get it. Because of that, a lot of our parents, they get the house, not realizing they teach you to get, a job, go to school, so that you can get a better job, right? But when you get that better job, you can buy your own house, right? So do you necessarily want the older house? So how do they pass that inheritance down? They don't? Okay, so I'm going to read this real quick because it was actually in the Bible, and this is one of the reasons they say that. Read that.
Proverbs 13, verse 22. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children.
Right, so it's in man format, but of course, most of our people live with who? Mom, because dad's not there, right? So if dad is there, this is one of his responsibilities. Is to leave that inheritance to his children. So just as the sister was saying, one way to do that is, even though you don't want the house, you can rent it out for income. Because we all know we're going to pass one day, right? So it'd be good to do that. Or you could sell the house and use that money to buy something that you like. But what do our people usually buy? Okay, cars, what? Shoes, gold teeth, gold chains, diamonds. Temporary stuff, right? Goes right back into what Brother Kemuel was saying at the end, how we lost our heritage. So now we do what they want us to do. They've trained our minds to be consumers, because who do we call our leaders or our role models today?
Your parents.
What's that?
Parents.
You say parents. Not true. Not everybody. What's the main thing? Mentors, celebrities. I heard it, celebrities. And what do those celebrities typically do? Who? You said rap, right? That's strange. And what do the rappers have?
Gold chains.
Gold chains, gold teeth, cars. You see how they're mentally training you to want specific things. So much so to now our brothers feel like we can have multiple women, right? Then they date our sisters, get them pregnant, and now they do what? They want to leave. The first one on the slide says generational trends. What's the trend in our community today? Single parent households, right? So I'm gonna read something that's important to that, because a lot of people don't realize marriage is actually linked to mortgages. This is one of the most important social changes unfolding in the United States over the past half century has been the decline of the institution of marriage, right? Can we agree with that? We do a lot of dating. How many teenagers we got in here? What's that? Repeat what I said?
Yes.
This is one of the most important social changes unfolding in the United States over the past half century. Who knows what a century is? How many years? 100 years? What's half of it? That's been the decline of the institution of marriage. A decline especially steep amongst blacks. Why? Just like we talked about. Who are our role models? The majority of them. Rappers, entertainers, right? There's even a show on Netflix now where Megan Good is the star. Anybody know the name of that show? What is it called? Problem?
What is it called?
I don't know. It's a season. I can't remember. The first episode is glorifying horror. Like, should that be something that we glorify, sleeping around? No. Man to man, woman to woman?
No.
No? That's why you say yes?
Oh, no. That's not like yes.
Yes, you agree?
I'm remembering the show.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's things like that are the examples they're pushing upon our young people to follow, to the point to where who's thinking about marriage when they get older? Some are, some not. So why not? But the ones that did raise your hand, why aren't you thinking about marriage? And it's okay, it's open forum. We all family here. There's no pressure.
Well, not me, but I know some people are not open to getting married one day because they didn't have the good representation of happy marriage in their home or around them.
Okay, so what mentality do they develop by not having that positive?
That they don't need to get married or have a family.
And they can do what?
Just have
They can do it by their what?
So,
You ever heard of the fraternity me-fi-me? Anybody part of that me-fi-me?
Well,
No? Alright, it's made up. But I'm telling you, if you listen to it, it's all about me. Me-fi-me. I can do all by myself. I can do this. I don't need nobody. A lot of our people subscribe to me-fi-me. Alright? What's that? Oh, question?
Oh, no.
Okay. So, in order to get back to a strong community, what does that take? It takes a man, a woman, and children, right? So, which talks about the institution of what? Marriage, right? So in 1960, roughly 74% of whites were married, and the rate dropped to 56%, which is only 18% in 2008. That is a big drop, but not compared to the plummeting marriage rate for blacks. In 1960, 61% of us were married, and but in 2008, so we in what year? 2022, right? So this is 2008. It dropped to 32%, right? Way low, almost more than half of what we were. And why? During that time, during the 90s and the 2000s, was a big push for rappers to promote sex, drugs, and no marriage. Do everything on your own, right?
Is it also like the government? Because when they did like the Section 8 housing, like you're not allowed to have a man in the house?
Well, that's part of it, but who pushed it, right? Because do you see most of our people in entertainment that are black, that are positive about certain messages? No. What do they push on our people? You should be a drug dealer if you want to make a lot of money, right? Scamming or cheating, right? So you don't need just one woman, you can have two, right? You can have two different people. Things of that nature. Those are the things, the images, or even our males now. Females, would you say it's hard to find a good man? Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah.
Right. So what's the main thing being pushed to our men today? Now they should be what?
Loyal.
Homosexual. So if they are homosexual, what does that mean for you? Will you have children?
No.
No. Is the number going to multiply of women not having good men to find? Right? So should we be okay with that type? Because a lot of people believe that they're actually born that way, when it's actually just a lust that they choose.
Why do you think that, or why do you say that being homosexual is being pushed on men?
Okay, name some of the rappers that are out today. Drake, okay, he's not homosexual.
Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne? Lil Wayne. Do you know if he's bisexual or hetero? Sure?
He has a girlfriend and having kids, so
That makes you. What's the big one? Lil Nas. Is he homosexual?
But he's one of the only few. He's one of the only few.
One of the few, but being pushed to who? The masses.
But someone being homosexual and being in a like doesn't exactly mean that they're going to be homosexual. It's a choice at the end of the day. Some people make it or not.
That's what I said.
But it's not like you're being pushed to be influenced by how.
Okay, so I want to keep this. So, having said that, all right.
I just want to say this because I know you came in late. You missed a whole lot of the presentation. About,
I'm sorry, I probably did.
Yeah, about our people. So we could pick that up later, but I want to get back to the real estate because you missed a lot of what's happened to us.
Yeah. So how that ties into real estate is that we don't realize we've been made real estate, right? Because we do what they want us to do, which fuels us to do what? To rentals, right? When you have a single parent household, it's very difficult to qualify for a mortgage to buy a home. All right. So jumping down, I'm gonna read this part that talks about an actual senator. In 1965, research report the Negro family, the case of national action, Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Moynihan? Is that his name? Okay, thanks, sir. A social scientist who later became a U.S. senator argued that high poverty rates amongst blacks were in significant part due to deformed cultural values. And this is something that they instituted because during this time, did we have power to bring drugs all the way over here to push to our people or guns into our communities? So this is something that they set up to force us to do this because we were not living at the top, were we? We had to fend for ourselves, and when you have to fend for yourself, what do you ultimately have to be pushed to? You can't get a job, you can't produce for your family, what do? You feed the streets, right? All right, so among the blacks were a significant part of the African, probably amongst the blacks. We were a significant part due to the form of cultural values. After difficult historical experiences, which, what is he talking about? Slavery. He argued black women preferred matriarchal families and their values contribute to disproportionately high rates of childbearing outside of marriage. In turn, black families without fathers led to large social ills such as crime, joblessness, poverty, and overdependence on welfare. Did we not just talk about that?
Yeah.
So they know this, so why isn't there any way to help it? Besides what you said, welfare, the man can't even be in the house, right? So if he can't be in the house, what does that mean for your children now? Like you said, the positive role models to follow, right? Because if you don't see that growing up, you're subject to what? To believe that, you know what, this is doable without father, or this is doable without mother, right? Not understanding that marriage has some power to it. So I'm gonna jump back to the PowerPoint because I'm really short on time. All right, so while we rent, flexibility. A lot of people don't like to commit to where they're living. And because the rent's going up, you have to be flexible to move around. Debt being too high. Anybody own credit cards? Right? So is it, sometimes our people have it maxed out. And when you have it maxed out, it shows 100%, it drops your credit score down. And the lower your credit score limits where you move. So anybody heard of redlining? Yeah. They can't do it anymore, right? Well, this is how they do it now. They get your credit low enough, you can only move certain places based on your credit score. Child support. That goes into maybe the family didn't work out, but the man still wants to take care of his children, or the woman still wants to take care of the child, because child support goes both ways. And the other person forces it upon the other, right? What that does is it lowers his or her income to the fact that now they can't afford to live in certain places. So what do they have to do? They have to rent. They can't afford a house, because in this market right now, as we know, it's crazy. You can't qualify for anything unless it has to be like $300,000 to $400,000. Family death. Who saves here for their mother and father when they die to be able to bury them? Nobody saves, right? Who knows when their mother and father is going to die? Nobody knows, right? But I have a lot of friends that they do save money, and when that death happens, set up GoFundMes. When that death happens, they have to take out of their savings to pay for the death, because we lack what? Life insurance. Did you know you can buy a policy on your parents just for that specific purpose? Up to $10,000. It doesn't cost much. And that way, when they die, you have the money to take care of them and nobody else is affected. All right, so I'm going to move on. Part-time jobs. Yep. All right, part-time jobs, that's another reason. You have to have a full-time job to qualify for a mortgage. Student loans and credit cards, right? So black home ownership back in 1970 all the way to now, it used to be, we were at 41.8% of home ownership. For 49 years have passed, we've only jumped that number up to 42%. So it's very important to have that goal of home ownership, because if not, you have nothing to pass down to your children. Benefits of buying a house. Mortgage payments stay the same as we talked. You actually build equity. Anybody know what equity is? Yes. Right. You sell your house, you got a profit between what you owe and what you sold it for. That's equity or profit. Buy rental property. You can use that to buy rental property. Will pass down to your children. And paying off a house. Once you pay off the mortgage, you can actually retire and live in the house with no payment. Only payment you have is for the taxes. And leaving a home to your children. So the biggest thing that we have to do is to take responsibility of where we are today. Most of us need to clean up our credit, and some of us need to start planning better and get a full-time job and start saving for a down payment for our house. So most people don't really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. So last slide.
Can you go back to the last slide?
This one here? Good. Last slide. So we have to choose to commit to divorcing the get the bag quote. Everybody know about getting the bag, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there ain't no point in getting the bag if you ain't got nobody to share it with. I guarantee if you put the bag over your family, that's all you're going to have is yourself. Leave the Me Fi Me fraternity and sorority. Remember what that is? All for you. It's not. It's a fake fraternity. Me Fi Me. It's all about you, right? Yeah, you may be, and sometimes you actually may be the sacrifice. Maybe you can't get what you want in this life, but you can set it up for your kids to succeed once you pass, right? And if not you, then who? That's the question you should ask. If it's not going to be you that do it, who's going to do it for your family? Because if not, we're going to continue this generation of people that do rentals, never own anything, and always stay at the bottom. All right? So I guess that's my time. Try to have to push through that. What's that?
Do you own a house?
I own a house and I own an investment property. Yes, sir. And the way it worked is I bought the investment property. It's a 4-unit building. We rent out the 4 units. I did a refinance on the property. Used the cash to build my house. I own my house rent free. I own my house straight out. And the rental property pays me an income so that I can live and do things like this in my free time. All right.
Thank you. definitely thank y'all for letting us come out. Y'all some sharp kids. We pray that y'all learn something and you can take forward to share with more of your peers. All right, this is your brother, Officer Michael here with the Lionz Radio Show. I'm here with Ms. Sandra Fatme of United Foundation of Central Florida. We did a presentation today for her group of kids here, Future Leaders United. So Ms. Fatme, just tell me a little bit about the program you have here.
Well, I'm super excited to share that United Foundation of Central Florida that started 8 years ago started to empower our communities, one family at a time, and out of that came the Future Leaders United After School Enrichment and Mentoring Program. And that's meant to empower our young people using a holistic approach. So what does that entail? We have financial literacy. Everyone needs to know how to use money, right? Life after high school. What are you doing with yourself? Because not doing anything is not an option once you've gone through this program, right? Preparing you for the next step. So could be vocational school, could be a trade school, could be military, and it could be college. We're able to facilitate all of that. Then we talk to them through their parents as well. So sometimes it's hard to get to the parents at first because they don't want to hear anything about what you have to do. So what we first do is engage the kids. And then the parents come along because they want to know, what is this program that you're a part of, right? We also do educational scholarships. That educational scholarship piece helps our young people to get to the next step. Getting to college may be far-fetched, may not look possible, but we teach them here to work for that scholarship, right? So you see these big checks being written to them, believe me, they work because we're teaching them about life. If you put in 20 hours, that's what the check will reflect. You put in 250 hours, it will reflect that as well. So we're just helping them to cope, to be productive members of society, to speak up. I want to hear. I want to hear how you feel after the pandemic. What have you gone through? We do mental health counseling here as well too. We do everything that you see out in the community is being done here.
And during the presentation, we were very impressed with how the kids handle themselves, the question that they asked. And a brother, Kemuel Ben Israel, the presentation was called Our Hidden History. Yes. How do you feel about the information that he brought out pertaining to our hidden history? Deep from a standpoint for me of it makes you think, right? It makes you think. It enlightened us about a lot of things. Our young people seem to have gotten some of that history, right? And listening to them speak and the way they were answering questions and the way they were asking questions, right? I felt good knowing that you're out here, sharing this information, because it's really not taught in schools, right? Because it's not something I think people want to get out there. And just as you said, when you don't want us to know something, put it in a book, because we don't read enough. Now, as we mentioned, Brother Kemuel used history books as well as the Bible. How do you feel about the biblical history that he referenced from the Bible? How do you feel about that? Good. I feel good because every one of those students, including myself, grew up in church, right? Grew up knowing that there's a God and sharing the word. I felt good knowing that it's a history book. I never really looked at it that way before, right? And the history in there is what's being hidden from us because we're using different versions, we're using different things to get the word out there, which is not true. So I felt good that you were able to merge the two and show us what the Bible really says. And it is a history book. Very well said, very well said. Well, Ms. Fatme, we thank you for your time. Well, hopefully you'll have us back to do more presentations. Absolutely. And once again, very impressed with you as well as the kids you're grooming here to be future leaders. Thank you, absolutely. And I'm proud of them as well. And this is what I want to showcase to the world because when we invest in the future looks good. And we have a responsibility to create other leaders. So thank you for being here today and for agreeing to be our part of Black History Month. And we do one every single year. So thank you for being and doing your part this year. All right. This is your brother, Officer Maciel, signing off, Lionz Radio Show.
So I'm here with
Aaliyah.
And we just wrapped up our Hidden History presentation, and a couple questions for you. How did you like the presentation?
The presentation was good because we don't learn that stuff like in schooling. So like this was a great opportunity to get to know a little bit more about our history.
Right. And how do you think it can, what does it do for you to learn about your history? Things that you didn't know before, what does it do for you?
It makes me feel empowered because like I'm not what everybody else thinks that I am. I'm more than that. I'm just not like just a black person. I got a history that is not what everybody think it is. It doesn't start with slavery, and it doesn't end with Martin Luther. Like
Right. All praises. And do you feel like this is something that should be taught to our people throughout the school curriculum, things of that nature?
Yeah, I think it should be taught because everybody else knows who they are, so we should know who we are too.
Absolutely. Another question, because one of the presentations you brought up was dealing with the housing market, right? What did you learn dealing with the housing market?
I learned that it would be better to own a house, but like today the housing market is crazy because of the supply and demand, prices are going really high, and not enough houses. So, but it would be good to own a house rather than renting because owning a house, your mortgage stays the same, but renting, it keeps going up every year.
Absolutely. And one final question. Would this be something that you would like to look more into, to learn more of, to have Lionz Den out more often, to teach more of this history?
Yes, definitely. Because about the housing market, like learning about that, it made me feel like, because I never thought that I would like to buy a house. I thought that I would just rent because that would be easier. But now I'm more like, buying a house would be better because you have that to pass down to your family and stuff. And learning about her history, you get to know who you are, like you're kings and queens.
That's right. Thank you very much, Aaliyah, for your time. We appreciate you, right?
Thank you.
Hello, I'll introduce myself. I'm Derek Edwards, the president of the Future Leaders Unite organization, and I had just done a workshop with the Lionz.
Lionz Den Radio.
Lionz Den Radio. I would like to say, first of all, that I'm very pleased with the experience. A lot of the information covered about Black history is very enlightening, stuff that I didn't know. For example, when the speaker was talking about how we had power and we had ruling in Europe previous to the 14th century during the Renaissance. And when he looked up the definition of the Renaissance and it said the revival of literature from the 14th century to the 17th century, it all clicked together because the revival is basically saying the elimination of Black culture. And I didn't realize that was what it was detailing. Because when you look at the textbook definition, you're just saying, oh, it's revival. Oh, it's just the beginning of a new type of art. But it's really the elimination of Black culture. So that really enlightened me, that really clicked in my mind. Same thing with all the other murals and art depictions that they showed us. It really showed how in this culture, American culture and popular culture, we don't see all of that. We see Jesus painted as a white man with a long beard, with a robe. We don't see him painted as a Black man. As I said, his hair was like that of wool, of pure cloth and pure wool. So we don't really see that taught anywhere else because they want to hide that from us. So being that it is told here, I really appreciate the experience and enlightening my fellow Fluites and me as well, and learning the information. As well as the housing, I did like that portion as well because a lot of people, they don't know much, like especially financial literacy, but also housing, mortgage, interest rates. That same thing applies to student loans. Because when you acquire student loans, the interest is racks up. It's not the actual base price that you're paying. Because when you pay for multiple years, interest will keep racking up, and you're paying maybe $20,000 more, $30,000 more as the interest goes up. So teaching students a little bit about financial literacy and housing, mortgage, I also appreciated the Lionz Den Radio coming out to do that. So overall, it was a really, really welcoming experience and a pretty enlightening experience. So I'd like to say thank you.
I think I like most where they were talking about the real estate and how we would invest, and I guess the single parent thing, how you don't have to be a single parent, but you choose to.
how do you feel about the lesson you learned today as far as impacting you in the future?
I feel like they should put it in the history books now because it helps you understand a lot of things that were false allegations, I guess.
Good, excellent. And dealing with the housing market, right? Because I know you had said families into real estate, correct? Do you think that's information that should be shared in the public school system throughout our neighborhoods?
I do feel like it should be shared in economics because I feel like it's teaching us to invest into more things. Because I personally feel like people will make a lot of money and invest it into, like what they said, golds and jewelry and stuff, and they can invest into houses for their families. And instead of leaving a house, they could rent it out and invest more money so then they can invest into another house. Like he said when he said he has, I guess a
fourplex. 4-unit building.
Yeah, 4-unit building. I feel like that's something smart to do. Like you can invest more money by, having somewhere for someone else to stay, and then you're investing more money.
Good, excellent. And what is the biggest thing that you feel like will help you that you learned today going forward for your future?
I feel like the biggest thing would be the real estate thing, where you can invest money from having one place to being able to have other things to influence people on your free time and being able to learn from it. Instead of wasting money on golds and jewelry and stuff like that.
Good. Absolutely. Because those things, they're pushing our community a lot, but it's pretty much, for lack of better words, a waste of money. Thank you very much. I'm here with Devaya. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you guys again.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are how men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.